Hello, I will be discussing modern issues surrounding bi-erasure, transphobia, and a brief history of struggles surrounding the LGBTQ community and what it all means for our ever-growing progressive society. To start, bi-erasure could be defined as the act of rejecting the concept of bisexuality, either through the blatant denial of one's sexuality or the vast lack of representation in media. I will be using the term bisexuality as it's commonly used within the queer community, like an umbrella term for those attracted to both the same or different genders and sexes. Here's some interesting stats. 3.5% of adults in the US identify as LGB, 1.7% identify as gay or lesbian, while 1.8% identify as bisexual. More men identify as gay or bisexual than women, and I thought it was interesting that adults are 2 to 3 more times more likely to say they have same-sex attraction or have engaged in same-sex behavior than they are to identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Acceptance surrounding the queer community has been increasing with each subsequent year. More TV shows are using gay characters, and queer people have become idols in the mainstream music industry. Lil Nas X, who identifies as a gay man, is a great example. It wasn't always this way, though. In fact, beginning in the 1940s, LGBTQ movements have been wrestling with these Christian oppositions and pushing for visibility, rights, and respect for their sexuality and gender. The primary issue I'll be breaking down is biphobia and transphobia, both inflicted by the confining box homonormativity creates. And the idea of one gender and sex promotes monosexism, biphobia, cisnormativity, and transphobia. And now I'm using a lot of words that may seem complicated and big, but they're very similar. They all mean essentially the same thing. All these words kind of mirror the standards provided by the Christian standards presented earlier, alongside homonormative politics. Now, for bisexuals specifically, they find themselves almost invisible in most scenarios. Based directly off the main study I used as the biggest reference for this project, some people believe bisexuality is not a real thing or is unethical. Many people feel the same way about transgender people. 20 cisgendered, heterosexual Christian women who consider Christianity to be a core part of their identities, whereas prompts regarding abortion, same-sex marriage, polygamy, etc. Here's what the sample consisted of regarding race, religion, tradition, and thoughts on abortion. The conclusion of the study was people reacted more negatively towards bisexual and transgender people than to cisgender, gay, and lesbian people. To quote the article, quote, outright support was only ever mentioned for gay and lesbian people, and the vast majority of responses to bisexual and transgender people were negative. This links back to the homonormative tolerance that has been built through the past few decades or so. Why are queer people perceived so much better when it's monogamous and this artificial nuclear family relationship, The very idea of bisexuality and transgender people have been erased or deleted from media and literature, and these are absolutely forms of biphobia and transphobia. Even when there are bisexual characters in TV shows, they're often not named as bisexual, right? And this erasure affects bisexuals negatively. Many responses from this study left the idea that bisexuals simply do not exist, or people who consider themselves to be bisexual will eventually fall into one of the two binaries of gay or straight. This quote from the study, for example, is incredibly ignorant. Look, I even have gay friends who don't believe in bisexuality. It's just not real. Those people are just figuring out their stuff and they need to figure it out. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they believe it, but God doesn't work like that. You like guys or you like girls, not both. God doesn't work like that. Those people are just confused, is what I believe is going on. Using her gay friend as a token is one thing, but her gay friend's agreement with her viewpoint represents something else altogether. Because, of course, it's not only Christians who represent the biphobic and transphobic population, as even some within the queer community present similar ideas and hate. A great example is the term gold star lesbian. So what is a gold star lesbian? This term refers to women who have never had a sexual relation with a man. And we see here there are internal and external reasons one may be homophobic, especially from those within the queer community. So in conclusion, to do better, we could push for greater acceptance for those of all sexualities, rather than focus on primarily gay and lesbian people in the mainstream media. We could also raise awareness for the notion of homonormative society that we've kind of built up in the past few decades. Personally, I was not very familiar with how extreme these scenarios could get before starting this project. And after educating myself through this research, I realized it's a pretty big social problem. I don't really hear anyone talking about or debating. So definitely would do great for the general society to raise awareness on issues around the LGBTQ community. And here are the resources I used. I reference this article often as I believe it gave fantastic input on the topic, and thank you so much for watching.